fighting for his attention, but disappearing completely. Imagine stepping back and watching what unfolds when your energy, your effort, and your presence are no longer there to fill the gaps. Does he notice? Does he come after you? Or does the silence speak louder than words ever could? Here's the truth. People don't value what they think they'll never lose. Your constant availability might be comforting to him, but it's also stopping him from realizing what life feels like without you. When you disappear, you create space for him to confront that void, and that's where his true intentions are revealed. Will he step up or stay silent? This isn't about playing games. It's about resetting the balance, taking your power back, and finally seeing if he's willing to meet you halfway. And if he doesn't, that tells you everything you need to know, because the man who truly values you won't risk letting you walk away. Disappear from his life and watch carefully what happens next. The answer might break your heart or set you free. When you're constantly available in someone's life, when you're the one always reaching out, always making the plans, always showing up, you might think you're showing how much you care, how invested you are. Maybe you are. But what you don't realize is by doing that, you're also robbing that person of the chance to truly feel your value. You're making it too easy for them to overlook what they have because they've never been given a moment without it. Think about it like this. Imagine you walk into a room and there's music playing. At first you notice it, you enjoy it, but after a while, you stop hearing it. The idea of being a member of a club or a family or a famine or a poverty or a tragedy or a terror, it becomes background noise. You're no longer actively appreciating it because it's just there. That's what happens in relationships when you make yourself too present, too constant, too dependable. You become like background noise. You stop being something they consciously value, and instead you become something they subconsciously assume will always be there. But the moment the music stops, suddenly the silence is deafening. Suddenly they notice how much it added to their world. That's what happens when you disappear from someone's life. It creates a contrast. It creates space. And in that space, they're confronted with a question they couldn't avoid before. Do I miss her? Do I actually feel the weight of her absence? Or was I just enjoying the convenience of her presence? When you take a step back, you're giving him the opportunity to feel what life is like without your energy, your kindness, your thoughtfulness. Maybe he's been taking you for granted, not because he's a bad person, but because you've never given him a reason to imagine a world where you're not there. And sometimes it's only in that gap, when your voice isn't in his inbox, when your laughter isn't in his day, when your warmth isn't on the other end of the phone, that he realizes how much he actually relied on it. Here's the catch. Disappearing isn't about punishing him. It's not about playing games or trying to manipulate someone into wanting you. It's about restoring balance. It's about creating a dynamic where your value is seen and appreciated rather than assumed and overlooked. Because when you're always the one putting in effort, you're teaching him that he doesn't have to. You're teaching him that love from you is unconditional, even when there's no effort or care on his end. But the moment you stop showing up, the moment you stop filling in the gaps, the dynamic changes. Suddenly, if he wants your presence, he has to earn it. And that's where you find out what he's really made of. Some men will notice you're gone and realize how much they want you back. They'll feel the void and step up. Others, they won't. They'll let you fade into the background because they were never truly invested to begin with. And that truth can sting, but it's better to know now than to spend another 6 months or 6 years pouring your soul into someone who doesn't even see it. You see, the mistake so many people make is thinking that love is proven by how much they give. They think, if I just give more, do more, show up more, maybe he'll finally see me. Maybe he'll finally give me the same energy back. But it doesn't work that way. Love isn't built in the moments where you're chasing someone, bending over backwards to keep their attention. It's built in the moments where both people are willing to meet each other halfway. And if you're the only one moving, the only one putting in effort, then stepping back isn't risky. It's necessary. Because if he cares, he will feel your absence. If he doesn't, then you've just saved yourself from wasting any more time. Either way, you win. You either get a man who wakes up to your worth, or you get your freedom back to find someone who already sees it. So don't be afraid to create that space. Don't be afraid to step out of his life and watch what happens next. The right man won't let you stay gone for long. Echre, you are so beautiful. Now, the right man won't let you stay gone for long. You know, it's funny how human beings are wired. We don't wake up every morning consciously thinking about the air we breathe. It's always there, so we take it for granted. The same happens in relationships. When someone is consistently present, showing care, initiating conversations, making plans, they can become like oxygen to us. And yet, the paradox is this: the very fact that they're always there makes us forget how valuable they are. We don't feel their absence because we've never had to. But the moment you take that oxygen away, people notice. Suddenly, there's a gap, and that gap creates a very powerful emotional reaction. Why? Because people value what they fear losing. That fear doesn't exist if someone feels you'll always be around no matter what they do. It doesn't exist if they believe they can give you crumbs of effort and you'll still stay at the table. This is why disappearing, even for a short time, has such an impact. It creates contrast. Contrast is what wakes people up. When you're always available, answering every call on the first ring, texting back instantly, clearing your schedule just because he asks to meet, he doesn't have to wonder how life would feel without you. You've already shown him that he doesn't need to do much to keep you there. And subconsciously, he starts to believe that no matter how little he contributes, he'll still have your energy, your love, your time. But when you step back, you shatter that illusion. Suddenly, there's a moment where he thinks, wait, why isn't she texting? Why didn't she answer? Where is she? That's when the fear kicks in. Fear is uncomfortable, but it's also clarifying. It makes him question what role you really play in his life. It forces him to think about what he'd be losing if you weren't there. Now, let me be clear. Disappearing isn't about playing games or manipulating someone into chasing you. It's not about withholding affection just to test them. It's about shifting the energy back into balance. Because if you've been over-investing, giving 100% effort to someone who's only giving 40%, you've trained him to believe that's all he needs to give. That's not a relationship. That's a one-sided dynamic where you're doing all the heavy lifting. When you pull back, you create room for him to step forward. That space is essential. Without it, there's no opportunity for him to show up in a meaningful way. It's like constantly filling someone's glass with water before they even realize they're thirsty. Why would they ever feel the need to ask for more if you never allow them to feel the absence? And here's the hard truth. If he doesn't notice you're gone, if he doesn't feel compelled to reach out or wonder where you went, then you have your answer. You don't have to spend weeks, months, or even years analyzing his mixed signals. His silence tells you everything. That's the beauty of stepping away. You let people reveal themselves to you. But let's flip the script for a moment. What happens if he does notice? If he reaches out? If he starts putting in effort? If he suddenly begins to make time for you? That's when you know there's still potential. Because someone who values you won't risk losing you without a fight. Someone who cares will feel that gap and want to fill it, not because you forced them to, but because they genuinely don't want a life where you're not in it. This is why creating distance isn't selfish, it's essential. It's not about punishing him, it's about protecting your own heart and honoring your worth. You're not doing it to hurt him. You're doing it because you deserve to be in a relationship where your presence is cherished, not overlooked. We have to stop rewarding laziness in love. Stop rewarding half-hearted effort with our whole heart. Because every time you stay present for someone who doesn't appreciate you, you're teaching them that your love comes cheap. You're teaching them that your love comes cheap. And your love isn't cheap. It's valuable. It's rare. It's not something that should be handed out freely to someone who hasn't shown they're capable of holding it. So step back, disappear, give him the chance to feel what life without you actually looks like. If he rises to the occasion, great. You've reset the dynamic, and now there's room for growth. But if he doesn't, if he lets you slip away without a second thought, then you've just been given the greatest gift of all, clarity. And sometimes clarity is all you need to walk away with your head held high, knowing you never have to question your value again. When you step back from someone's life, it's one of the most powerful moves you can make, not because you're trying to punish them, but because it reveals everything you've been unsure about. See, when we care deeply about someone, we often get caught in this loop where we're doing more, giving more, showing up more, trying to keep the connection alive. And in that loop, we sometimes forget to ask ourselves the most important question. Are they showing up for me in the same way? But here's the thing. When you disappear, when you stop calling, stop texting, stop making the effort, you force the other person's hand. Suddenly, there's no noise, no energy flowing from you into their world. And in that silence, their true intentions are revealed. Because a man who truly cares about you is going to notice. He's going to feel the shift. He's going to feel the absence of your energy and wonder where you went. He'll be driven to reach out, to check on you, to pull you back into his life. Not because you manipulated him into it, but because he can't stand the thought of losing you. On the other hand, if he doesn't notice, if he doesn't care, if days and weeks go by and there's no effort to find out why you went quiet, then you have your answer. And I know how much that answer can hurt, because there's a part of you that wants to believe that he's just distracted, or that he's testing you, or that he'll come around eventually. But that part of you is clinging to potential, not reality. The reality is written in his actions, or lack of them. We live in a world where it's easy for people to take each other for granted. When you're always there, always accessible, always the first to reach out, it becomes normal to them. They stop appreciating the warmth you bring, the way you make them feel wanted, the way you light up their life without even trying. Your disappearance shakes that complacency. It puts them in a position where they either step up or step out of the picture completely. And as scary as it is to give someone that choice, it's also liberating, because now you're no longer wondering. You're no longer stuck in limbo, asking yourself, does he really care? Or is he just enjoying the convenience of me being there? Sometimes the hardest part about pulling back is the silence. That space where you're waiting to see if he'll notice, waiting to see if you mattered enough for him to fight for. And in those moments, every part of you wants to break and reach out, to send the text, make the call, reopen the connection, because deep down you hope he just needs a little nudge to realize what he's losing. But here's the truth. If he needed you to remind him of your worth, he wasn't truly invested to begin with. A man who values you doesn't need prompting. A man who values you doesn't need prompting. He doesn't need a warning shot. He feels your absence like a void, and he can't help but move towards you to close the gap. And if he doesn't, that's your clarity. That's your answer. Because if you have to fight for someone's attention, if you have to constantly audition for a role in their life, you're not in a relationship. You're in a transaction. And you deserve so much more than that. You deserve someone who feels lucky to have you, not someone who needs to lose you to realize your value. I know it's tempting to think that disappearing is a game or a tactic, but it's not. It's a boundary. It's you saying, I refuse to keep pouring into someone who isn't pouring back into me. It's you stepping back long enough to see what's real and what's not. And in that pause, in that stillness, everything becomes clear. The beautiful thing about disappearing is that it's not about him, it's about you. It's about reclaiming your energy. It's about reminding yourself that your love is a privilege, not an obligation. It's about giving yourself the space to heal, to breathe, and to see whether this person is actually worthy of the effort you were given.